Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To carry on with the lower limb lectures, I'm going to cover in this presentation the anatomy of the back of the thigh and the popliteal fossa. I'm Dr. Dalia Saleh, Professor and Head of Anatomy Department at Mansoura University, Egypt. The objectives of my presentation will be: first, I'm going to revise some bony features at the back of the thigh and the popliteal fossa. And then I'm going to discuss the muscles of the back of the thigh regarding their origin, insertion, nerve supply, and action. And then I'm going to talk about the anatomy of the sciatic nerve and the popliteal fossa regarding its boundaries and contents. This is the lower part of the outer surface of the hip bone. You can see here the upper lateral part of the ischial tuberosity. And here is the lower medial part of the ischial tuberosity. This is the lower part of the ischial tuberosity, or the sitting area. And this is the ischial ramus. This is the back of the right femur. In the middle, you can see the linea aspera. At the lateral side of the upper end, you can see the gluteal tuberosity. And the linea aspera, remember that they split into two lines which extend downward to the condyles of the femur. So we have on the lateral side the lateral supracondylar line, and here in the medial side we have the medial supracondylar line, which ends below at the adductor tubercle. Now we are looking at the lateral surface of the lower end of the femur. So above the lateral condyle of the femur, we have this elevation which is called the lateral epicondyle. Below it, there is a groove. We call it the popliteal groove. And above it, there is a pit. It is called pit for lateral head of gastrocnemius. Now we are looking at the articulated right tibia and fibula from their back. So this area in specific is the back of the medial tibial condyle. It's called semimembranosus groove, and this is the styloid process of the head of the fibula, and this is the fibular head. If we look at these two bones from the front, we have here of course the tibial tuberosity, and this is the upper fourth of the medial surface of the tibia. Now let's talk about the muscles at the back of the thigh. They contain a group of muscles called hamstring muscles. They include the semitendinosus, semimembranosus, biceps femoris. At the back of the thigh we also can see the sciatic nerve, the posterior cutaneous nerve of the thigh, the vessels, which are called the perforating vessels, which arise from the profunda femoris artery and supply the back of the thigh. The hamstrings again include the long head of biceps femoris, the semimembranosus, and the semitendinosus. They take a common origin from the ischial tuberosity and insert into either the upper end of the fibula or the upper end of the tibia. Their nerve supply through the tibial division of the sciatic nerve, and they share in the same action extension of the thigh at the hip joint and flexion of the leg at the knee joint. Those inserted into the tibia will medially rotate the leg, like the semimembranosus and semitendinosus, while those inserted at the fibula will laterally rotate the leg, as the biceps femoris. This is a summary for the hamstring muscles, but if we need more details, the semimembranosus will take origin by a flat tendon from the upper lateral part of the ischial tuberosity, and its insertion by a rounded tendon into the horizontal groove behind the medial condyle of the tibia, and from there extensions of this tendon goes into different directions to support the capsule of the knee joint, while the semitendinosus arises in a common origin with the long head of biceps from the medial part of the ischial tuberosity. Its insertion is through a cord-like tendon into the upper part of the medial surface of the tibia behind the insertion of the sartorius and gracilis. So These three muscles, the sartorius, gracilis, and semitendinosus, although they arise from different origins from the hip bone, they insert into the same point at the upper part of the medial surface of the tibia. So the semitendinosus arises from the ischium and inserts into the tibia, while the gracilis arises from the pubic bone and inserts also into the tibia. And the sartorius arises from the anterior superior iliac spine or the ilium and inserts also in the same point at the tibia. So these three muscles, beside their action to the group they belong to, they also stabilize the pelvis over the lower limb. For the biceps femoris, as I mentioned now, it has a long head and also a short head. The long head takes origin in common with the tendon of semitendinosus from the lower medial part of the ischial tuberosity, while the short head of biceps femoris arises from the back of the femur at the linea aspera and also from the lateral supracondylar line. For the insertion of the biceps femoris, the short head that we can see here join the long head which arises from the ischium, and both unite together and insert into the head of the fibula. Its nerve supply from the fibular division of the sciatic nerve. Now what about the popliteal fossa? It's a diamond-shaped area at the back of the knee. Its upper lateral boundary is made by the biceps femoris, while its upper medial boundary is made by the semimembranosus and the semitendinosus muscles. Its lower boundaries made by the two heads of the gastrocnemius muscle. On the lateral side, we have the lateral head of gastrocnemius and the plantaris, while in the medial side, we have the medial head of gastrocnemius. The roof of the popliteal fossa is made by skin, superficial fascia containing the cutaneous nerve and vessels, and the deep fascia, which will be pierced by the small saphenous vein, while the floor of the popliteal fossa is made by the popliteal surface of the femur, the capsule of the knee joint, and the fascia over the popliteus muscle, which lies at the upper part of the back of the tibia. The popliteal fossa contains the following: the popliteal artery and its branches, which is the deepest structure at the popliteal fossa. In the middle, we have the popliteal vein and its tributaries, and the popliteal lymph nodes. And then we have two divisions of the sciatic nerve, the tibial and the common peroneal nerves and their branches, and also fatty tissue. The popliteal artery begins as a continuation of the femoral artery at the opening of the adductor magnus. It terminates at the lower border of the popliteus muscle by dividing into anterior and posterior tibial arteries. It is the deepest structure at the popliteal fossa. Its anterior relations are the same as the floor of the fossa, and its branches include the genicular arteries, or the arteries that will supply the knee joint. We have superior, medial and lateral genicular branches, inferior, medial and lateral genicular branches, and the middle genicular artery. Also, it gives muscular branches to the surrounding muscles. The popliteal vein is formed by union of the vena comitans around the anterior and posterior tibial arteries near the lower border of the popliteus muscle, and it terminates by passing through the adductor magnus hiatus into the adductor canal and become the femoral vein. Along its course, it lies between the popliteal artery and the tibial nerve, and it receives veins that accompany the branches of the popliteal artery and also receives the small saphenous vein. The small saphenous vein is formed at the lateral side of the dorsal venous arch of the foot. It ascends behind the lateral malleolus, then upwards into the calf, and it drains the lateral side of the foot and the ankle and the back of the leg, and terminates by piercing the deep fascia of the popliteal fossa and drains into the popliteal vein. For the popliteal lymph nodes, they are few in number, lies under the deep fascia, and they are embedded into the fatty connective tissue of the fossa close to the popliteal vessels. They drain the deep tissues of the leg, foot, and the knee joint. Their efferent vessels drain into the deep inguinal lymph nodes. The sciatic nerve is the largest nerve in our body. It's a branch of the sacral plexus. It leaves the pelvis through the greater sciatic foramen, usually under the piriformis muscle, and then leaves the gluteal region midway between the greater trochanter of the femur and the ischial tuberosity, covered by the long head of biceps femoris, and usually divides into its two terminal divisions just above the popliteal fossa. It innervates the muscles of the back of the thigh, and by its two divisions will supply the leg and foot muscles. It also has articular branches to both the hip and the knee joints. The tibial nerve, the largest division of the sciatic nerve, passes vertically in the fossa from its superior angle to its inferior angle and leaves it between the two heads of the gastrocnemius muscle. It gives muscular branches to the muscles arising from the popliteal fossa, like the gastrocnemius, like the popliteus, like the plantaris, and these muscles you're going to study in the leg. And also gives 3 genicular nerves or 3 articular nerves to the knee joint, so it will give the upper and lower medial geniculars and the middle genicular branches. It also gives cutaneous nerve or a sensory branch. It's called the sural nerve that will supply the back of the leg. The common peroneal nerve is the smallest of the two divisions of the sciatic nerve. It passes medial to the biceps femoris, so it has an oblique course. It enters the popliteal fossa through its upper angle and leaves it through its lateral angle, and disappears into the peroneus longus muscle. This muscle you're going to also study at the leg. It lies on the neck of the fibula, and this is a dangerous course for the common peroneal nerve since it can be crushed against this bone, leading to inability to dorsiflex the foot and foot drop. It gives no muscular branches inside the popliteal fossa, but later on it gives its muscular branches in the leg. It gives 3 articular branches or genicular branches to the knee joint, namely the upper lateral, the lower lateral, and the recurrent genicular branches. It also gives 2 cutaneous or 2 sensory nerves, the sural communicating nerve that will communicate with the sural nerve, and also the lateral cutaneous nerve of the calf. This is the end of my presentation. Thanks for listening. If you like it, please do not forget to subscribe, like, and share, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know if I upload another video.